morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to our latest FreeThought Hour. And I've got a very impressive guest tonight. We have Clive Aruede, who is a leader in the Association of Black Humanists, and he's also a celebrant who works for the Humanist. You can hire him if you want him to help you commemorate any of your life events. And he's going to tell us about his very interesting journey, because he didn't start out like that. So here he is. Clive, how the devil are you?
Great. Thanks very much, John. Nice to be on your show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Is there any way we can get your camera to point down a little bit so that your head... Yeah, you're too much. Somewhere there. That's about right. Great.
About right.
So that your head is in the middle of the screen. That's perfect. Yeah.
Good.
Great. So I think we've crossed paths quite a lot in the past, because I remember many years ago now traveling to High Wycombe, where you and some of your partners in crime were presenting to was it the Skeptics Association, and at that time you styled yourselves the London Black Humanists, and that's when I saw you and a couple of your female companions delivering their presentation.
Yes, that's right. London. We started off as London Black Atheists.
Oh yes.
And yes, and we were, as you said, in high demand with people wanting us to come and give talks.
Yes.
Pretty much all over the UK in different places. So, and as you said, we crossed paths in High Wycombe, but we also had presentations to give, talks to give in places like Nottingham and so on and so forth. So it was there was a lot of traveling and going around at the time, and I think we enjoyed meeting all these people and talking to these people and getting our message across.
Yes. Well, you were a bit of a new thing, I believe, at the time, when nobody had done that from your ethnicity point of view.
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't realize that you are kind of making history a little bit, that you're kind of breaking new ground, as far as we were concerned. We were just fired up to do this sort of.
Well, but that's where I'd like you to tell the audience how you got to be fired up in that way. Because, as I said in the intro, you didn't start out being the Clive that you are now, did you? So you've come on a journey, and I'd like you to tell my audience all about it. So I'm going to put you full screen and listen to your journey.
Thank you. So, yes, it's been one hell of a journey. So I certainly didn't start off as an atheist. In fact, as African in Nigerian from Nigeria, we do have a very religious upbringing. I think a survey was done, and out of all the countries in the world, the one with the highest proportion of religious people was Ghana, with about 98%, followed by Nigeria with about 95%. So you do tend to grow up in a very religious atmosphere.
Yeah. So I'm interrupting you here because you actually did grow up in Nigeria. You're not.
I grew up in a Nigerian household, which is. But it was in this country.
Yes. So you're born British.
I was born in Nigeria. In Nigeria.
Oh, right.
But I came over here when I was just a little kid. Really.
Yes.
Okay.
A tiny tot.
But even in Nigeria, the indoctrination starts very early.
Yes.
So I remember we went to primary school, and one of the first assignments was who could learn and be able to recite the Lord's Prayer by heart.
Oh, yes.
And there was some sort of reward. I can't remember what it was, for those who could do it. So naturally, I went home and spent the whole day and night reciting it until I had it word perfect.
Yes.
Would you like to hear it?
Not right now, thank you. Actually, it's something that we could talk about a bit later on, because I've got some attitudes towards some of the lines in it, which might be worth airing. And then, of course, there's the commandments, which, of course, I have some serious misgivings about. But anyway, carry on with your story, please.
Yes. So that was how, as I said, indoctrination started. And of course, you have to go to church every Sunday. But then, as I said, I left Nigeria when I was a young child because my parents were moved to London, England, in pursuit of work. And of course, it all carried on just the same as before, going to church. And also in primary school or in school in general, you had to have an act of daily worship of a broadly Christian character.
That's right. Still the law today.
Absolutely. And trust me, this is one law they don't break. So it was on every single day. And, you learned certain things. You learned that all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
And so on and so forth. So you get to learn this is the way you should think about things, and I was pretty conformist in the sense of I went along with it and I was happy in it. And then as I got a bit older, I was asked if I wanted to become a priest. So I didn't really want to be a priest, but I didn't mind helping out. And so I trained as a Eucharistic minister, and I became a Eucharistic minister in the Roman Catholic priests, in the Roman Catholic Church. What did they do, the Eucharistic ministers? Well, we helped the priest out to conduct the service, to give out the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, the bread and the wine. And if somebody is not well, that there's a parishioner or congregation, member of the congregation who's not well, you go to their house and do a little service for them and give them the body and blood of Christ at the end of it. So that was how things were, and things were jogging along pretty nicely until some kids asked me, "What is science?"
Well, can I butt in here, because I married a Ghanaian girl.
Congratulations.
She's the mother of my two daughters, who and currently they're on holiday. I collect them from Gatwick tomorrow. Oh. They've left me alone. And I'm not complaining. Anyway, they worshipped not in a church, because you have to, when you're an immigrant community, obviously there's a family connection. There's a group of people from the same origin, but you don't have a parish or a building like the established C of E does. So they met up in I think initially it was a converted factory, but then they got really good premises on a high road in London. And I think that was previously a hall of some sort, which became sanctified into this particular evangelical denomination. So tell me about your experience there. Was that anything like?
My experience was a bit more mixed up because I grew up here, so I was part of the whole paraphernalia of church and school and all the rest of it. So I did wind up experiencing some of that evangelical type of worship that you're talking about, where people go to any old building, really. Cinema will do,
Yes, yes.
Yes, and sometimes old warehouses which have been abandoned and then they convert it. And so I, I got to see both sides of
Yes.
yes, of that kind of fervent worship and speaking in tongues and
Yes.
rolling around on the floor.
Yes.
So I saw all that,
Yes.
but because I've been brought up here, it didn't appeal to me very much. I
Yes.
saw it, but I
You
wasn't
were
quite.
looking at it. You were looking at it through sort of British eyes, and it seemed a bit alien, a bit odd.
Well, this is it, because I like to say that I'm a dual national, but I really am a dual national. I
Yeah.
feel Nigerian
Yeah.
and I feel British.
Yeah.
And
Do you go? Do you go back? Do you visit relatives in Nigeria still?
yes, I try to get back once every 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so because all my relatives are there, and
Yes.
in Nigeria, you don't talk about mother, father, brothers and sisters, and that's it. No, your uncles from
Yes. Yes.
all over the place, your cousins, your this,
Yes.
your that. These are all your relatives. So when you go home, you really spend all your time just going from one
Visiting.
place to another to
Yes.
visit relatives.
And
So
the meanings of the words uncle and even sister are not necessarily as precise as they are in the indigenous population's usage here. You can
yeah, no,
call them.
definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, almost everybody is your auntie
Yes, yes,
and uh, and your uncle.
yes.
So there's not. It's not something which you use in a precise manner
Not
to say, "Oh,
necessarily not necessarily blood related. Well, that's not so odd to me because many years ago when I was a little boy, um, my father rented some property for his business from these people, and
mm,
I was introduced to them as auntie. I don't remember an uncle, but certainly I was told as a small
mm,
boy to refer to this lady as auntie,
mm,
and so that's it's that's not an uncommon thing at all.
mm." Yeah, so that's how it is in the society. You just accept it, and as I said, almost everybody is either uncle or auntie.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, these children asked me what's science, and this is what then led me, because they were quite bright kids. I didn't want to just say, oh, it's physics and chemistry. And this. I wanted to give them something which is more meaningful, meaty, something you can chew on.
Were
So I went,
were these your children?
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, and I, I, by this time Google has started, so I
Yes.
typed in what is science in Google,
Yes.
and well, of course, it came up with so many links, as it does
Yes. Yes.
when you have the results of a search,
Mm,
and some of them were just what you would expect. With, oh, science is something which is verifiable,
mm,
testable, quantifiable.
yeah.
It's falsifiable, and all
Mm,
those kind of normal
yeah.
science talk. So I found out what I wanted, and also, but there was a lot more. There were links to various branches of the sciences,
Yes.
cosmology, you know,
Yes. Yes.
and so I looked through that. Oh my goodness! And then you find out that in fact, what you thought was created by God, in fact, it just came about naturally through,
Yes.
if you go right back, the Big Bang, and up
Yes.
until the present day,
Mm,
where the stars and the planets are forming from,
mm,
the gases and the
yeah.
hydrogen clouds and so on. And so you got to find out how stars were born, and they live their lives, and depending on the size, what happens to them at the end of their lives.
Yes.
If they're big enough, they blow up and in supernova.
Yep.
And the bits which are flung out are the stuff which they've been making during their lifetime, which is what gives us all the bits that we can see around us. The silicon and the carbon and so on and so forth. So, but anyway, the point is that there was a rational explanation for everything.
Yes.
Whereas you're not just told believe this. There was a rational explanation. You could see the processes. You could understand how the processes came about.
Yes. There's no process in creation, is there? It's just a sort of zap thing.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, they want you to believe that some guy with just a magician in a magician way just said, "Let there be," and it was, But that's not a process. How do you repeat that? So, and in any case, even though it's supposed to have finished after 6 days and rested, the planets and stars are still happening today. They're still So then, of course, as I said, there are so many links. What is science? Then you go into the ontological meaning of it, the methodological meaning of it, and then you look at how did life come about. We don't know. We don't know how life itself actually came about. But you do know what happened once life had got going. Then this one was explained very well by Charles Darwin in the theory of evolution by means of natural selection, and how life tries to fit itself into all the available niches. And then you have different life forms to occupy those niches. So I got to a point where I had friends, of course, who were religious. Some of them were just a regular church friends. Others were friends in other churches and other denominations, if you like. One of them was actually a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, yes.
And, yes, and he was a very good friend of mine. We're still friends. But he wanted me very badly to come over from being a Roman Catholic to being a Jehovah's Witness. And he had arranged for readings and this and that.
Yeah.
And they gave me some of the books. Now, I was on this journey where I was just soaking up so much information about how the stars got here, the planets got here, the different life forms had evolved, and you have all this huge variety of life forms, and how long it takes. And then you look through the rock strata, and you can tell how long that the whole thing has been going. And now you give me this Bible thing, this book that says all of that took place in 6,000 years, and never mind even the magic of let there be this and there was this. 6,000 years.
Yes.
It just made no sense at all. I couldn't take it. And he was trying to pressure me to come over there, and then I told him I can't do it. I know this is not right. This is completely wrong. And it was at that time also that I decided that, do I accept the religious message and stick to God did everything, or do I accept this scientific rational explanation which is backed up by so much evidence? And I decided I couldn't go along with the God thing anymore, where there's hardly any evidence. There's no evidence, in fact. I decided to go with the more natural explanation for everything, where there's tons and tons of evidence. And that's how I found my way out, But
so it was,
as I said, I'm in a very religious environment. I thought at that time I was the only one.
Really? Yes.
Yes. I thought I was the only one. and I was
Yes.
just, and it is so disorienting, because how do you,
Yes.
so for some time I was still trying to go to church, but it didn't work. I just couldn't take it anymore.
No.
And so I had to stop
Did
going.
you, did you have to keep quiet about your new self-educated scientific knowledge so as not to upset the apple carts amongst the rest of your society?
Okay, so what happened was that to some extent I had to keep quiet to some extent, but
Yeah.
I wasn't. I didn't even know that there was a name like atheist for people who don't believe.
Right.
That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
All I knew was I didn't believe anymore,
Uh-huh.
and so but I couldn't tell them because I couldn't really function. I was
No.
unable to function normally. I
Well,
just couldn't go
you have
through.
to keep that inside your head.
Yeah, it was that confusing. That
Yeah.
so so after a while I said, okay, I'm gonna have to stop church. It's just not working. I couldn't do it. And then my and then I then told people that, okay, I don't believe anymore. I
Mm.
can't. And of course there was shock, absolute
Yes.
shock.
Mm.
You can't be serious.
Yeah.
And so I was getting, so and I was told, maybe you're just pulling our legs. So I
Yes.
said, no. They said, okay, if you're not pulling our legs, tell people that you don't believe. So I said, okay.
Mm.
I sat down, composed an email, opened my address book and sent it to everybody.
Wow. Send to
And
all.
sent to all. And of course, I started getting phone calls and I
Ooh.
started getting emails.
Yes.
And two people even came from Nigeria to
Really.
try and persuade me to come back
Yes.
into the religious fold.
Yes.
But I couldn't do it because you have to be honest with yourself.
Yes. Yes. Well, I get asked about this because a lot of people that I meet, particularly online, since we've been locked down, and most of our meetings have been like that,
Mm.
want to know why I'm so anti-religion. And I'm not particularly anti-religion.
Mm.
You can believe what you like, but what makes me, like you, not wish to help the religious people is that there is this conflict. There's the religion side of things has set itself against science. And I'm a retired science teacher, and they're offering an alternative explanation, which isn't right. So I wish to correct that impression and help people to see, like you have seen, about the stars and evolution and such like.
Well, this is it. You have, if you look into it with open eyes and you're honest and you want to find out the truth, not just find something to say, aha, that proves everything is rubbish. But if you really want to look at it honestly,
Yes.
you've got to go by the natural explanation and not the supernatural explanation.
Yes.
And we have given them enough time. Religious folk who believe in religion and
Yes.
supernatural entities,
Mhm.
more than enough time to come up with some evidence that
Yes.
there's anything supernatural going on. And James Randi, when he was alive, as you know,
Mm.
threw up
Mm.
$1 million and said,
Yes.
if you can
Yes.
prove anything supernatural,
Yes.
it doesn't have to be the God himself. Angels will do, or
Yes.
any of the other, you know. Um,
A cherub or two.
yeah, he has $1 million, but
Yeah.
that money has remained unclaimed,
Yes, that's
because
right.
there's really no evidence.
There isn't.
But
No, you're right.
produce some evidence, and then I'm sure you will believe it straight away if there really was evidence, and as I would,
Yes. Yes.
let's
Yes.
let's be honest, if there was evidence, we would have to believe it.
Of course. Yes. Yes, well, it grates with me, although I don't mind, what people personally believe. It grates with me as a retired science teacher, to see all of this unsubstantiated stuff that they use to control people, and I feel a failure, because that sort of nonsense hasn't been wiped out. It's my job to have corrected that. Science hasn't managed it yet.
It's not easy to do because people have this desperate need to believe something, and so even if you were 100% successful and the church is faded away, some other nonsense will probably take its place.
Yeah.
We've got all these people who believe in crystals and
yes,
and all sorts of other weird and wonderful stuff.
Pyramid magic. Yes.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to do. I mean, even now, there's still some people who believe in a flat Earth.
Yes.
Flat Earth. How can you have any? That means you've got no idea at all.
No, I don't know how they manage when they cross over from one time zone to another. Because of course, if the Earth wasn't round, it wouldn't have. There's no reason to have time zones.
Absolutely, and this is something which people like Aristophanes has known since the days of Rome and ancient Greece and all that. So they knew it was round even back then.
Yes.
But now we still have people who believe it's a flat Earth. So all I'm trying to say is that it takes a hell of a long time. I think with enough, I don't want to say education in the sense of everybody has to go and get some kind of college degree, but in the sense of just general acceptance that this position is true, this position is not true, it will take quite a lot of years before we manage to grow out of having this need for religion. It's just,
we're going to have to wait for some of them to die. They won't change their minds. But it does seem to be happening slowly. I'm going to put up a couple of comments that we've got coming in from our audience, because we know some of these people and we can address their posts. Okay. So this is Esther, the Afro-Humanist. You may not know her because she's in the West Midlands, a bit further north from your location. And she's asking if there's any way of supporting fellow Black humanists who don't have a community and who don't live in London. Well, start a community where you are, Esther. But there's Scott Carla is asking if she's from the US, I think he means. And then she gives her location. And he says, in the US, Meetup is popular, and I'm going to put your Meetup address scrolling across the bottom so that everybody can see that. Here we go. That's how to get in touch with fellow humanists, whatever skin color.
Yes.
I've been asked about this since I put your poster up to announce that you were coming on my show today. We've had a few people, I don't know whether they're trolls or what, but we've had a few people make fairly snide remarks about you associating with others of your color and saying things like, if we did it, we'd be called white supremacists. And,
well, it's really, really very simple. If we were doing this in Nigeria, for example, you wouldn't have to emphasize black, because black is the normal thing there.
Yes.
But over here, I mean, the truth of the matter is that when I came out, like I said, I thought I was the only one.
Yes.
I then said, what am I going to do? This is,
Yes.
and then I started doing a bit more of a research,
Yes.
and I came across Humanist UK.
And this was a bit before social media got going. So there was no meetup in those days.
Absolutely. So,
so you couldn't go online and find similar kindred spirits.
Exactly.
Online,
There was no Black Humanist group anyway. So
no.
even if social media was flying around, it makes no difference. You couldn't find one. We were the first. So I went to Humanist. Then I joined Humanist UK because they more or less fitted what my thoughts, my feelings, how I understood things. You see,
I've been a member of Humanist UK, formerly known as the British Humanist Association, for I don't know, a decade or maybe two, a long time.
Yes, but they're great, but they don't have too many meetups. That was one of the things. But even when you have then I looked around, and then I found a local group.
Yes.
And I joined the local group. Yes. But again, they're very good. But when I went to meetups, there were always the same one or two black faces. So I said, this can't be right.
Yes.
Because the population of London is something like 30 to 40, 40% in some places black. This can't be right.
It is the most cosmopolitan city in the world. There are schools there, and as I said, I'm coming from the point of view of a teacher, where the intake has 180 different languages.
There you go.
And some of them aren't very good at English,
Is that the teachers or the students?
No, the pupils.
All right. So I said, this can't be right. The proportion is just out of kilter. So there must be something about whatever it is that makes people think I can't join this lot, So we got together with a few friends. There was about 4 of us at the time, and we started London Black Atheists.
I think we've got one of them here. Look. Hello, Audrey.
Oh, okay, Audrey's here. Oh, great.
Thanks for watching us, Audrey.
And so we started it up, not because we only wanted to be by ourselves. The idea was to encourage black people to, if they were hiding in the closet, to come out and become atheists, humanists, whatever it is they wanted. For goodness sake, do it. Don't just don't just hide away. And that was the reason for the name.
But let me probe a little bit more deeply into this, because I think that you think, like me, that what our skin color is something that we're not responsible for. We can't help it, and it's trivial. I mean, I've seen a photograph of a 5-cent piece with a little mountain of melanin on it. That's the difference between a colored skin and a non-colored skin. And I think, and I know you'll agree with me, that there's far more important characteristics that people should be assessed by, rather than the superficiality of their external features.
I couldn't agree with you more, John. It's just complete nonsense. And the whole kind of language has grown up around this very superficial thing.
Well, that's right. It exists. We can't deny the fact that people can look at us and decide what category to put us into. So we can't deny it. But what we must do, I think, is trivialize it, because I want to judge you by your generosity, your intellect, your honesty, not what you happen to look like. And I hope you want to do the same to me. In fact, Morgan Freeman, the actor, Morgan Freeman, have you seen him?
Yes.
He often plays God parts in movies. And he is quite famous for having said to a white journalist who was interviewing him the way to get rid of racism, I'm going to stop calling you white, and I want you to stop calling me black. And then it's gone. Because what's underneath is far more important than what's on top. You can't judge a book by its cover.
As I said, I couldn't agree with you more. And so that was my whole thinking. You know, this is why I said if we were in an African country, for example, Nigeria,
yeah,
black wouldn't come into it, see, because it's just that we're here. We just needed a way of connecting with people who identify as black, so that they will come out.
And you have a shared culture, so naturally you want to group together. Just the same as I enjoy getting back together with the people that I was doing my first degree with, for example. You know, these are old mates, and they happen because it's so long ago. And in this part of the country, not many other ethnicities had arrived at that time. So it just so happens that they're all indigenous English people, you know, or Welsh or Scottish. One of my great friends is Scottish. But, you know, we shouldn't be judging each other on what we look like. End of.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no scientific basis for using that as a way of differentiating between people. You know, it's just it's just a feature. You know, it's no different than your hair or your eye color or anything else. You know, it's just one of the features.
Yes.
And there's no superiority or inferiority in it. It's just one of those things. See?
Well said. Well said. So to go back to your story, you joined the Humanists, and now you've taken on I guess it's a voluntary role with them, haven't you?
Yes, indeed. So, as I said, we found that there weren't too many black people showing up, so we just used the name to let people know that it's there, because there's this thing as well, as I said, that the community is heavily religious, and they think that humanism, atheism, all these things are for white people, you know. So we wanted people to get over that and come out, because you have a far better life anyway. Anybody who says you don't is just deceiving themselves, because all that money which is poured into church coffers every week, can you show us anything that they have done with that money?
They've spent it on a few posh buildings and a lot of nice robes, but it doesn't do a lot of charity. Sometimes they have a little, I don't know, 10% of their accountancy is spent on a gesture of charity as a sort of shop window to make it look good, but mostly the money is spent on trying to grow the religion.
Yeah, I mean, if you're some of the established churches, then you're trying to grow the religion. If you're some of these ones which sort of spring up, and then they're trying to make as much money as they possibly can, and they want to go for the big houses and the big cars, and some of them get enough money to even have private jets.
Well, that's right. He's died, hasn't he? There was what was his name? A Nigerian pastor who I think he had 4 private jets, and he's just what was his name? He recently died.
Yes, the one who was the Synagogue Church of All Nations.
Yes. He had following in America too, and that's where most of his wealth came from. But fortunately, nearer to where I live, some of the old C of E Anglican churches have dwindled away to nothing. Their congregation has gone, and so they have had to be redeployed. These fabulous old buildings, and one of them has turned into an eye hospital, and some people have converted others into homes.
Mm.
But one of them has gone to become a Greek Orthodox church. I didn't know we had a community of those near where I live, but apparently we do.
Well, this is the thing. It's just part of the, as I said, even you can't get rid of religion overnight. I wouldn't want to.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
TB
you, Esther.
Joshua. Somebody's giving the name. Yeah,
That's
thanks.
Esther. Thank you, Esther.
Yeah. So religion will not die so easily and quickly. It will take a very long time. And as I said, if you think about it, Aristophanes knew that the earth was round. There's still flat earthers today. It could take as long as that before religion disappears. And in the meantime, you're going to have, like you said, empty church buildings here or there, but then other denominations could take it over. And, so the whole show would just carry on for a very long time before I'm not in the business of saying, we should shut them down. That's not my, I just want just a normal educational process so that people get to understand that it's a load of hogwash by themselves and decide to.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You can't force any change of mind on a person. They have to make it.
Exactly.
Yes. And you're right in that, what was I going to say? It's not going to go away overnight.
No.
And we need more education, particularly in science education, because that's what converted you and many others. And this is a process that has to wait to go through the generations.
Yeah. So let's hope it started in a big way, but let's hope it started. So after I joined Humanist UK, I joined the local group.
Yeah.
Then we started the London Black Atheists, which has now become Association of Black Humanists.
Yes.
The reason for that, as you know, is that when you are dealing with people, if even though we talked about how superficial the whole color thing is, when you are dealing with people, they have like an electric shock when they see that you're black to begin with, if you're talking about certain things.
Yes.
And then if you tell them you're an atheist, the second electric shock comes through, and those two double whammy of electric shocks is enough to usually disable their reasoning faculties, and they can no longer hear anything you're saying. All they're thinking is this sensation that they're getting. So we decided to use Association of Black Humanists because it helps us to at least get in there, give our arguments before, so people can still listen to us.
Well, that's right. I have this conversation a lot because the word atheist has become poisoned, hasn't it? Particularly in America, where so much mud has been slung at the non-believer who calls himself an atheist. They claim that we're immoral, that we are purposeless, that we hate God, and maybe we like to eat babies. Pretty much anything hateful has been thrown at us. And it's not true, of course. We're just ordinary guys and gals, and we've got to try and normalize the word because it isn't as it's portrayed.
No, yes, absolutely. So this is one of the things that that it's our job. Nobody else is going to do it for us.
No.
And I'm always a little bit put off when I see the definition of atheist in dictionaries and so on. I wonder who writes it. I think probably theists wrote some of it.
Yes.
So we've got a fight in our hands to get the definitions straight.
Exactly. The trouble with dictionaries and encyclopedias come to that is they were created back in the day when if you weren't a believer, you were probably burnt at the stake. So they all come tainted with this sort of cosmic view.
Yeah, well, this is it. So, but for those of us who are more concerned about the truth, we got to, mount some kind of campaigns to get these definitions written up properly.
Yes.
So I then once we got that thing going, found that we needed some representation in the whole movement of because people still get born, people still get married, people still die, whether you're humanist, atheist, or religious person. So we needed celebrants for those things.
Yes.
And I thought I'd give it a go. A friend of ours came to talk about it one day, Phil Walder, and it seemed like a great thing. So I went to do the training to become a celebrant, and Audrey, who posted that message a moment ago, also did the same thing. So yeah, it's great to have some black celebrants, although it's neither here nor there, but for some people it's very important.
And humanist celebrants rather than priests.
Exactly. And so we encourage or want to encourage more people to do it.
Yes.
And when it comes to the whole priest thing as well, we have an objective of trying to get away from anytime something happens, the press runs over to a priest, sticks a microphone under their gob and say, what does the black community think about this? We are not all churchy people, These priests don't speak for us. We have voices, we can speak for ourselves. We have things to say, we have things to contribute. So
this is thousands of years of religious privilege that they're still benefiting from. As you say, nobody comes to me. I'm the president of Atheism UK, but nobody comes and puts a microphone under my nose and asks me what we think. But the Archbishop of Canterbury has that happen to him pretty much every day.
This is the problem. And if by some amazing coincidence the Archbishop were to say something which actually mirrors what I think, what I feel, I still wouldn't want him to be the person representing me.
No.
I want to represent myself, or other people who think like me to represent us, because I think it makes a big difference when you decided to base your thoughts and your opinions and your feelings on reality, rather than some kind of fairy tale for grown-ups.
Not only that, not only do we not want somebody who's unauthorized speaking for us, allegedly, maybe I will choose a spokesperson, somebody that I think should do quite well at representing my views. But not only do we not want that, we don't want to be labeled either. We don't want to be put into a pigeonhole and described as that sort of person.
Exactly. So, as I said, it's one of our objectives, and we've been fairly fortunate to have some members of the Association of Black Humanists being asked to come onto different sorts of programs, radio shows, television programs on BBC, and so on and so forth. The Big Questions with Nikki Campbell.
That stopped. The BBC have discontinued that. What a shame.
What a shame. Yeah. And so, but we've appeared on that at least 2 times anyway. So this gives us an opportunity to say what we want to say for ourselves without having to filter it through somebody who doesn't think the way we think, hopefully we'll have more opportunities to do that in the future.
I hope so.
We do want to get away from that idea that provided it's something to do with the black community, then it's got to be a priest who is asked for his opinion. We just have to get away from that.
Well, I spoke at an event that I don't think you were there, but Audrey certainly was, and one or two of your other, as I said, partners in crime. This was in August 2018, and you took over the garden area in the centre of Red Lion Square, and held a festival. And I came along and I spoke to that crowd, which was a good thing to be able to do, because normally nobody's interested.
Yes, I think that was anyway. The thing is that we, as I said, we started off with about 4 people, and according to the meetup.com, this is not my measurement, meetup.com says that we are now very close to about 1,000 people, and so the group has grown quite a bit, and we do want people to join in the sense of not just join and be members and sit back and watch everything, but become participants,
active
active members. That's what we want. So we want to hear that, okay, we've got such and such a thing going on, and we want to help that thing to get off the ground and to put as much as we can behind it to promote it, but not necessarily having to just only have a handful of people doing everything. Want people to be active members. And so the type of thing that happened at Red Lion Square, where you spoke, and other things that are going on. I think somebody said they want to have a group start up in the Midlands, was it, or something like that?
Yes. There's. Let me have a look at the chats, because there's some people are talking about what's this? This is Esther. Do you have a local humanist group? Start there and see if they can support you. Meeting in person is way better than Zoom, and I'm doing these out of order. Some of these are not questions directed at us, but comments that they've been making amongst themselves here. And you're not the only one. Esther felt quite isolated when leaving a religion, because you feel like some sort of black sheep.
Yeah.
And I don't mean black in
we know
in the racist sense, but this is it. You do feel like a square peg in a round hole when everybody else is paddling in the opposite direction.
Well, this is it. So, like I said, one of our objectives is to speak for ourselves. We don't want only church people speaking for us, but another one is to have that replacement, or the social side of church. We want to be able to replace that, so that people have somewhere to go. They have some people to talk to. They're able to relax and be themselves. If they want to voice their opinions, they can do that. And they have a social gathering, social meetup that they can go to. So we want to be able to replace that side of religion, because religions they've developed over thousands of years, and they've figured out how to get it done. And
that's right. Yes, getting people together, having a bit of a coffee and cake, or whatever. Yes,
that's it.
So I agree with you entirely. In fact, I went and spoke to Manchester Humanists. Was it a couple of weeks ago now? And you can see that online. And I've done a Zoom meeting recently with Northwest London Humanists. So I do speak to humanists, and I think this is a very good organization to support.
That's right. And one of the other objectives we have is to give people sufficient information, because yourself as a science teacher, there's a hell of a lot of information which will be helpful just to have it as background knowledge, and so that you're not so easily bamboozled when people come up to you with all their rubbish. And so we do. We want people to join up, not just for the fun of it, but there's other important things, other important issues to deal with as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We want to give them an alternative view, and that's something that religious people don't like. They don't want you to have access to an alternative view. Sometimes they prevent you from looking at any other source than their particular scripture.
Well, this is it. I mean, they claim that it's perfect and it's got everything,
Yes.
but if you've only ever read one book, then you might think it's perfect and it's got everything, but
Yes.
there's a hell of a lot out there
Yes.
that is really worthwhile knowing.
Yes.
It enriches your life.
Yes.
So
That's right.
yeah, for sure, I gave up church, and I lost something in the process, but I gained the whole universe. So
Yes.
what
Yes.
have I lost?
Do you get shunned at all by any of your former friends or family? Because this can happen, can't it?
Yes, it's part and parcel of coming out, if you like, and coming out of church is that shunning that goes on. And yeah, I experienced it very clearly early on, because when you're walking along and somebody comes and sees you coming, they cross to the other side of the street, that kind of thing. And like I said, we had so many people phoning up and coming to visit and and even people coming from abroad to try and convert you back. So
Yes.
so that's
That's amazing that they should go to that effort, that amount of work to try and get you back.
It's the sort of thing you would do if you really, really felt that it was a matter of life and death. And don't forget, it's not just life and death; it's eternal life.
Afterlife.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, on that subject, the Atheism UK does a podcast every week, and I'm involved in that a lot of the time. And we did one on the afterlife recently, so that's available to look at on Atheism UK YouTube channel. But if you don't mind, I want to show a little 1-minute video that I've made about atheism, the word, and in an attempt to try and clean it up from some of the misconception that's been deliberately, the propaganda that's been attached to it. So take a look. I'll be interested to hear what you say about this. When we are born, we don't even have language, so we can't possibly have a religion. Labeling babies with a faith is like claiming that kittens are born Christian. All religions have to be taught by means of words, and it's a case of who gets to us first. This is why religions spread out from a center like bacterial colonies. They do that by marketing seductive stories that claim to answer all the mysteries that worry us. In return for this alleged peace of mind, they expect payment and submission. There's always been some doubters, but in their desire to control everyone, theists have victimized and even killed opponents. Still, today, it may not be safe to come out as an atheist in the parts of the world where a religion holds power, because believers have painted us as worse than criminals. Let's normalize atheism. It's our birthright.
Super.
Yeah?
Super, yeah, because that is really what it's all about. It's you're born without this set of bizarre beliefs.
Yes.
But as soon as you're born, the indoctrination starts. You're not named, you're christened. Which is
exactly, yes.
And you have to go through that whole ceremony.
Yeah.
And when you're growing up, the indoctrination keeps coming every day, as I said, in schools, where you have to have a assembly of a broadly Christian character, and On Sundays, if it's Sunday for you, for some people it's Saturday, then the indoctrination doesn't stop. It just keeps going on and on and on, and until and human beings are very flexible. After a while, you kind of think it's normal.
Yes.
You think it's the right thing. If you've been indoctrinated from such an early age, it's impossible for you to. And for some people, I consider myself lucky, and to some extent, I was able to get out of it. But for some people, it's not possible. They can't ever see anything wrong in it. And some people will tell you, I'd rather die with all these funny and false beliefs than to find out the truth that it's all bunk.
Yes. They invest too much of themselves in the story that they've been indoctrinated into. Clive, you've been fantastic, as I knew you would be. Our time is coming to an end, and so I'm just going to let people know that next week's FreeThought Hour, same time, same location, in the FreeThought Productions channel, is with my guest, Dolan Hickman, whose particular interest is in the way religion is sometimes used as an excuse to abuse children. And he's very passionate about trying to stop that horror. So it'll be an interesting show to hear what he's got to say.
Thank you. I'll be tuned into that, that's for sure.
Yes, great. Okay, well, you know where to come. So thank you, viewers, and thank you for commenting, and I've screened some of your comments. Thank you, future viewers who watch us when we become a podcast in a few minutes after I stop live streaming. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Big thank you to you, Clive.
Thank you very much, John. It's been a great pleasure.
I've enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Bye.